Hi kids, I'm Mr. Paul from the Youth Services Department of the St. Petersburg Library System. And you know, today for the Great American Teach-In, we're going to ask Miss Elizabeth some questions about her job. But before we do that, I need to find my friend, my monster friend. It's supposed to be here somewhere, and I can't find my monster friend. Do you know where my monster friend is? What? You told me you were here.
I thought it would be funny.
It was kind of funny. Not to me, maybe, but it was kind of funny. So, Monster, what are you doing here today?
I want to ask some questions to Miss Elizabeth.
Yes, we're all here to ask questions to Miss Elizabeth and get some answers about her job for the Great American Teach-In. Are you ready?
I'm more than ready.
All right, well, let's go.
Miss Elizabeth, did you need to go to school for your job?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, Monster. Like you, I went to school too. I started out in kindergarten, and then I went to, can you count it with me? First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And then I graduated from high school. But I kept going to school. Then I went to college for 4 years and I got a bachelor's. And then I went and got a master's degree in library science. And that took me a couple years. That's a lot of school. Sounds like overwhelming, especially when you're at that beginning. But you know what? Just like you, I did it 1 year at a time, 1 day at a time, and it was definitely worth it.
Why are you looking at me?
Did you go to school for your job?
Well, I did. I don't have as much schooling as Miss Elizabeth has, but yes, I had to go to college for my job also.
So, Miss Elizabeth, do you get to read on the job?
Why would you ask her that question?
I want to know.
Oh, this is such a good book. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I guess I'll have to read it at home. Guess what? Librarians don't get to read at the library at work. We read at home like you do. That's not part of our normal job, though it would be a fun part. But anyway, so no, librarians don't get to read on the job.
So as you know, there are different kinds of librarians.
I didn't know that. Miss Elizabeth, what kind of different librarians are there, and what kind are you?
There are lots of kinds of librarians and lots of kinds of libraries. There are libraries and librarians to take care of them in hospitals, in schools like you go to, elementary, middle, high school, also in colleges, either big colleges or small colleges. They have libraries too, and librarians need to work them. They have libraries in prison, so there are librarians who are working at those as well. And all sorts of kinds of businesses. Nike has a library, and let's see if you can guess one of the most famous places to visit and work. It's in Orlando, so it's far, not too far, and there is a giant mouse that works there, and his name begins with an M, and his second name begins with an M. What is that? Did you guess Disney? If you did, you're so smart. But guess what kind of library I work in? I work in a public library, which is the best kind of library as far as I'm concerned, because anybody can come to a public library. There are lots of different roles that librarians have. They can do research, they can do borrower services, which is the part of helping people check things in and out. That's a whole big process. There's more behind that than you know. What I do is work in youth services, which is of course the best department in the library as far as I'm concerned. So I work with teens or children from birth on up. So teeny tiny babies, smaller preschoolers, elementary age children like you and older, and middle school students and high school students. That's what we do in my department, Youth Services. My primary responsibility is working with elementary age kids, just like you.
I have another question.
Okay, you can ask it.
What do you do for fun, Miss Elizabeth?
Did you really have to ask that?
Yes, I did.
Yes, Monster, I get to do lots of fun stuff. I like to be creative. Do you like to be creative? What do you like to do to be creative? Well, let me tell you what I do. We like to tell our stories creatively, and sometimes we create props to go with it. Sometimes I draw. Can you believe it? Sometimes I color. I get to choose crafts, and guess what? If you choose crafts to do in a craft program, you have to make a sample. So I get to make crafts. I get to help plan book bashes. A book bash is when we celebrate a book or a story or a movie, and we do all sorts of kind of games and all sorts of cool things. So I bet you can see some wonderful activities we've done with the book bashes that I've gotten to help plan. I get to find great clip art because sometimes we do feeding stories so that everybody can participate, and you need the clip art for the pieces for everybody to feed the animal or whatever character it is. I get to write puppet shows. Monster, I just suspect that you might have a special spot in your heart for puppet shows. I don't know why, but I bet you do. Besides writing them, then I get to perform them. It's crazy. There's music, there's stories, there are puppets. Sometimes we actually play them. I also really enjoy planning science experiments because normally I do a stream club, science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math, that meets weekly, and we get to learn about science, and we get to do some science experiments, so I get to find them and plan them as well. I get to choose books and music that we use for story times. All that stuff that we do takes more work behind the scenes that you would know. And sometimes I get to make metal board stories. When we want to illustrate a story, we use pieces. Some days I come home from work and I say, I can't believe I got paid to do that. That's pretty awesome, isn't it, Monster? I bet you do too, Mr. Paul.
Miss Elizabeth, what else do you do at your job?
So one of the other things I do in my job is choose books for the library to buy. So when you see books on the shelves at the library, they don't just magically end up there. Someone has spent time choosing them, and then there's another group of people in tech services who actually process them when they come in the door. But I'm on the buying end. So here is one of the books I've chosen that got added to our collection because I buy e-readers. These are books that some of you are definitely reading, where you're starting to learn to read. And then here's another one because I buy chapter books too. I select and buy chapter books. This is another series for more advanced readers, and I got to select it.
Do you have anything else to say?
I do.
Well, go ahead.
Do you help kids at your job?
Absolutely. I definitely work with kids in my job. It's a wonderful part of my job. Besides story time, I also work in the library, and kids come in with questions, all sorts of awesome questions. Sometimes they need help finding books that they can use to help them do their homework. Sometimes they have a subject that interests them, like I know a lot of kids who love dinosaurs. Or they have allergies or something and they really want a dog, and so they need help finding a hypoallergenic dog. And there is such a thing, and I did help a child do that one time, one memorable time. Also, sometimes kids just say, I just need a good book, Miss Elizabeth. Can you help me find a good book? I find out about their interests and their reading level and just all about what kind of books they're interested in. And then I take them to the shelf and help them find a good book or several good books. I usually like to give them a selection of books that they can take home and enjoy and read.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
This one's for you.
All right, what is it?
What's your favorite part of the job?
Well, I'd have to say my favorite part is getting to work with kids and making them happy and laugh, and also teach them a little something too.
Sounds good. What about you, Miss Renee?
Hi, my name is Miss Renee, and I'm a member of the St. Petersburg Spark team. And when you ask me what my favorite thing to do at the library, it's definitely doing story times. Reading stories, singing songs, telling stories. I love sharing all the books and stories and songs that I have loved all my life. And that's my favorite thing at the library, but I love the people too. And that's another thing I really enjoy, is getting to meet all types of different, interesting people of all ages. It's one of the best parts of working at the library.
Miss Elizabeth, what's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite thing, I told you about lots of wonderful creative things I do in my job. My favorite thing is just story time. You'll find a lot of children's or youth services librarians, that's their favorite thing to do. I love to read the stories. I get to kind of act them out as I read them aloud. In fact, Mo Willems, who's one of my favorite kids authors, I heard a story a year or two ago, and he said that with picture books, the person, he writes half the story and the other part is kind of created by the reader. And so I really enjoy acting out and creating that second part of the story. And I'm really thankful to great writers like Mo Willems. And then also I love to dance. I'm not a great dancer. I'll never be on Broadway, but I have a lot of fun moving and grooving to music. So story time with reading stories and music is my favorite thing.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you have to be quiet in the library?
What, did you ask that for me?
We do like people to not be too loud in the library, but sometimes Mr. Paul is just a little bit loud, and sometimes I'm just a little bit loud. But you know what? To be a librarian, you don't have to be loud and crazy. Though if you are going to be a youth services librarian, it does have to be a little bit crazy. But librarians have all kinds of personalities. Some are really outgoing. Sometimes they're a little quieter, maybe a little less outgoing, but that's okay too. I make it work. I rock it, and lots of other people do. But there are some things you really do need to have in your personality. You really have to like people. And you know what? It's really good to be curious, because that way you can really support the curiosity of the people that you work with. And as I said, if you are doing story time, it definitely helps to be crazy and a little bit silly. And I'm just thrilled that I get to explore that part of my personality on a regular basis working at the library. Where else do you get paid to be crazy and silly?
Are you doing anything different now at the library?
Yes, I am doing some different things that I've never done before. It's been an exciting time to try and learn some new skills. So we are doing virtual programming. That means videos. I've never done anything with videos until March. So I've learned how to do a story time on a video. It is really kind of a different process. Some of it's the same, but talking to the camera and making sure all your action is in the screen is definitely different than what I was used to. I actually have learned how to film. In fact, I filmed a lot of this video. That's been really exciting. I have recorded, besides doing story times, I've recorded myself teaching science experiments, teaching some crafts. We actually recorded a video for the Science Festival that's on the Science Festival website. So all of that has been new, exciting territory for me. And lastly, and the thing that I'm learning right now, is how to edit videos. So it's been a really interesting and challenging but exciting time too.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Miss Elizabeth, Mr. Paul, Miss Lorraine, Miss Renee, can you read me a story, please?
I'll see what we can do. Sounds like a nice last question.
Hi everyone, my name is Miss Lorraine and I'm with the fabulous Spark team of the St. Petersburg Library System. And my favorite part about my job is working with kids and reading fun stories like the one we're sharing with you today called Frank Was a Monster Who Wanted to Dance. And it's written and illustrated by Keefe Graves, and we'd like to thank Chronicle Books for allowing us to share this story with you. Frank was a monster who wanted to dance. I know I could boogie if they give me a chance. Meow. So he put on his hat and his shoes made in France. And he opened a jar and he put ants in his pants.
He drove to the theater. Yahoo! And jumped on stage. Then he danced like his shoe size instead of his age.
Check this out. Bravo, fab, wow, buffo. Frank shook his shoulders, he strutted his stuff. The audience screamed. They couldn't get enough. Frank did a cartwheel, yippee! And Frank did a flip, yow! Suddenly his head began to unzip. Uh-oh!
Out flopped his brain, which plopped on the floor. Oh, let's see what the audience has to say this time. Yuck, ick, eek. Which loosened his eyeball, which rolled out the door. Oh, there's the cat again. Meow. And after his arm fell out of his sleeve, oops, the horrified audience started to leave. Would you stay for that? Would you? Here's what the audience is saying now. Yikes, run, oh! But Frank kept dancing. He said, what the heck? And laughed as his head fell off of his neck. Can you laugh with me like Frank? How do you think Frank would laugh? I'm going to laugh really strangely. Ha ha ha!
He said to himself with a one-eyed glance, I might be a monster, but man, I can dance. And that was Frank, the monster who wanted to dance. I think he did pretty good, don't you?
Now, Monster, I'm going to take you on a tour of some of the libraries in our St. Petersburg library system.
Thanks for joining us at the Great American Teach-In.
Hey, that's my line.
Sorry.
All right, have a good day and come see us at the library.